Welcome back to English Harbour Radio 93.5 FM. Now with us in the studio we have musician Rachel Fuller, and that song we just played is from her 2005 album Cigarettes and Housework. Rachel's been telling us a bit about her work with PAAWS, the animal charity here, but I want to talk a bit about your musical career now. And you started playing the piano, I believe, when you were about 6, and you've been writing music since the age of 10, is that right?
I was a little bit older than that. I started when I was about 9, learning to play piano and organ, and then I started to write when I was about 10.
Okay, yeah. And what sort of things were you writing back then at such a young age?
I wrote a sea shanty which was played at the Festival Hall in London when I was 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was part of a competition.
Oh my goodness, that's
But I
amazing.
used to write, as I was a teenager, I used to write tortured kind of songs about being broken-hearted and not understood by my parents. But I did also used to write quite dark things, like I wrote my own death mass.
Did you?
I did. I watched Amadeus, which is a film about the life of Mozart, and decided that I was an undiscovered, unappreciated genius, and I was going to write my own death mass and die young, and they would play it at my funeral, and everyone would be really sorry.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen anytime
Yeah,
yet.
no, I've missed the boat on that one. I'm no longer young.
Now, another interesting thing I read was you spent a long time playing the organ in a funeral home.
I did. When I was 17, I'd finished college, and I turned down an offer to go to Oxford University because the people that were there were too square for me, and I was a bit of a riot. And a lot of my other friends were working in clothing stores and McDonald's and earning a bit of money, and I thought I'd better get a job. And my mum saw an advert in the local newspaper that they were looking for an organist for the Southend, which is the town where I grew up, for the main crematorium. So I applied. And I worked there on and off for 2 years, and I used to play for about 11 funerals a day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was great because it was only Monday to Friday. First one was at 9, last one was at 4, and I had weekends off.
Right.
And I was getting paid about 4 times as much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I hate to say it, but I really did it for the money.
Right. And were you playing the same music, or obviously people
Pretty
were
much,
picking?
yeah.
Right.
I mean,
okay.
you know, there'd be some strange requests, but mostly it was the 23rd Psalm and Abide With Me. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
And what were some of the strange requests?
Oh, you know, Elvis and, oh God, what else? Sort of pop songs, which when you play them on a church organ, they don't sound great, but, you know.
And how did your career progress from that point?
I did that for a couple of years, and then I went back into composing and arranging, and I moved up to London and started to arrange for the BBC and to orchestrate for people's music albums and stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, now we mentioned previously you have a very famous husband, and that is Pete Townshend, one of the greatest, from The Who, one of the greatest, most influential bands of the 20th century. Hands down, one of my personal all-time favourites. He's, of course, lead guitarist and main songwriter, I think.
Yep.
But you've collaborated a lot with Pete musically as well.
I have a fair amount. I mean, this is how we met. He actually employed me to do some string arrangements for him on a project that he was working on in London. And over the years, we've done a few things together, but we've never really publicly done stuff together because it doesn't seem to go down too well.
Oh, really?
There's this whole sort of Yoko Ono, Linda McCartney thing to do with wives and partners of famous musicians. They don't like it. So the idea of me sort of banging a tambourine on stage with The Who just was never going to happen.
Right.
But over the years, you know, we have done some really great things together. I actually did write one of The Who songs for their last album, On the Quiet.
Okay.
Yay!
And when did that one come out?
Oh, that was a few years ago.
Okay.
It was,
all right, we'll have to have a listen.
But Pete and I did last year, I orchestrated his album Quadrophenia for the Royal Philharmonic.
Oh, really?
And that was played at the Albert Hall in London. That was really good. It was also recorded and released as a soundtrack.
Fantastic.
So we do collaborate from time to time, but it's more professional. It's less to do with performing. It's more to do with my skills as an arranger. And he's very supportive of my work, and you know, he doesn't need my support, but he gets it.
I believe you've been writing an opera as well. Is that right?
I have for about a year now, based on a book called Siddhartha, which was written in the 1920s by a German writer called Hermann Hesse. And it's just a story. It's a simple story. It's not breaking any new ground about a young man living in India on a spiritual quest to find himself and become enlightened. Okay. So And that's been loads of fun to work on, and that's workshopping with a director and a producer from the Barbican in London in March. So that's moving forward, and we'll hopefully go to New York.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And how close is that to completion?
I've got all the tracks for what we would call sort of a first draft, because in the workshop we'll see what works and doesn't work, and we'll lose songs, and then I'll have to write more, and it's an ever-changing thing. But we're in good shape to actually kick it off and get it going.
Now, congratulations, by the way. I know you and Pete have been together for 20 years.
Yes, that's
and
right.
you just recently got married last month.
We did.
How was that?
It was fabulous. It was 8 minutes long, and there were no guests, and we had 2 witnesses.
Okay, so just very small and
it was like, hello, I love you, marry me, yes, I do, great. And then we went to the local pub for lunch.
Nice.
Sort of how we wanted it, just down low and quiet.
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
lovely. It was lovely, yeah.
And how come you waited 20 years to do that?
There's no rush, is there really? I mean, to be honest, we've lived like a married couple for so long that we are married. So it's just paper, really.
Right. And who are some of the other musicians that you've collaborated with over the years? Who have been some of the best people to work with?
Oh, I did an internet show about 8 or 9 years ago called In the Attic, and we had a lot of guests on. I don't want to sound like a big head, but I was one of the first people who did live webcasting from an Airstream trailer. And we had our own satellite, and bandwidth was very expensive. There was no sort of real, live streaming going on at all then. And we had loads of guests on. I followed The Who on tour, and they did a load of European festivals, and we had a lot of young, cool artists. We had the Flaming Lips, the Fratellis, the Kooks, Martha Wainwright, oh God, I can't remember, my mind's gone blank. And then we did a series of small shows in America, and we had Lou Reed came and did one.
Oh, really? Amazing.
Sean Lennon, Ryan Adams, Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins.
Okay.
We had a lot of fun guests there. And my co-presenter was Jimmy Fallon.
Really?
So he was my sidekick.
Fantastic.
And he's now like a massive star with his own show.
Wow, amazing.
In America, which is great. So it's all been loads of fun.
And who's left on your musical bucket list? Anybody that you'd really love to work with?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I suppose my musical heroes would be Stevie Wonder and Joni Mitchell.
Okay.
They're the people who make me joyful.
And who else do you listen to? Who do you admire, sort of contemporary musicians?
Oh God, that's a tough one. I mean, I'm a real Luddite. I'm like a child of the 70s that never really grew up. I still listen to Stevie Wonder, Joni Mitchell, Prince, quite like the Beatles. And in fact, because I write so much, I don't listen to an awful lot of music, because I listen to music purely just to sort of uplift my spirit. So Stevie Wonder's always my go-to guy.
I read in 2008, I don't know whether this is true, but apparently you spent an entire week in your flat in London on a mission to record an entire album in that week.
I did. I wanted to write, I had a tiny little flat, which was really just one room with a kitchen and a bathroom, in a village in London called Kew Village, which is very small. And I moved into the flat for a week, and I wanted to write 7 songs in 7 days based on the village and different. There was a hardware store, there was a Starbucks, there was a health food store. So I wrote 7 songs, and I wrote the lyrics all over the walls. I wasn't allowed any paper.
Oh, wow.
So I stayed there for a week, and I wrote and recorded the 7 songs. It was great. I love doing fun things like that.
And the 7 songs were about the shops
the
and
village
the community.
and
okay.
the people. Yeah.
Fantastic. And did you? What happened afterwards? Did you paper over the lyrics? Or
I
are they
painted
still there?
over them.
Okay.
In the end, because I had to sell the flat.
Okay,
So,
right.
but they still exist beneath.
You
the
might have
layer
got
of
more money
paint.
if you'd left them there.
Well, I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not particularly a well-established artist.
And what was that week like? Mentally draining, I should imagine.
It was strange. I had my 35th birthday in the middle of it, and I had a bit of a midlife crisis. I'm old. I've peaked. I've missed my time. I peaked and I missed it. It's all downhill from here. So, but it was good. It was fun. It was creative. It was inspiring and interesting, and yeah.
And you
enjoyed it.
released the songs afterwards?
I put the songs up onto my blog site.
Okay.
For people to listen to, and yeah, the Times came and did. They sent a director called Ken Russell, who's recently passed away in the UK, came and did an interview, and Yeah, it was good fun.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm big on fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick music break and then we're going to be back in the studio here at English Harbour with Rachel Fuller.